Shot in the Dark by Silverpup. Chapter 37. When he was a child, Bilbo recalled catching an illness that had left him feverish and delirious. He had spent days in bed with his parents constantly at his side, watching and caring for him as his small body struggled to survive. The sickness had left him in a strange state, somewhere between the land of the living and the world of dreams. He could never tell what was real or a figment of his mind, and therefore ended up hurting his parents and himself a few times. It was not until the fever broke and he grew stronger that he was finally able to tell the difference again. It was an altogether horrible experience, and ranked pretty high on his list of really bad stuff to avoid in the future. The longer he traveled with the Nazgul, the more he realized he was slipping into a state very similar to the one he had when ill. It started out slowly at first, as the wraiths did their best to repress their auras, and were constantly stuffing him with king's foil. He was often tired and weak, and his headache never seemed to stop no matter what he did. But the longer they traveled on together, the longer he sat with that damn creature behind him, the more Bilbo could feel himself drifting. He began to fall asleep, no matter how uncomfortable or ill he was. He thought that it would not have been an altogether horrible experience if his dreams were a pleasant escape from reality. They were not. Instead, Bilbo found that his mind was in fact a much worse place to be than traveling with 5 Nazgul to Mordor. The twisted irony of it all was not lost on him. Tauriel lays broken and bent on the snowy floor. Her ribcage has been ripped open and her heart torn out. Her hazel eyes stare at the sky with a look of horror and pain that will never be erased from her beautiful face. The Nazgul behind him pinched his knee. He flinched and jerked away on instinct. When the wraith realized he was awake, it turned its attention back to the horse and trail before them. Bilbo squinted into the distance, but could see only the never-ending horizon. It seemed their journey was not going to end anytime soon. They clean Fili and Kili of the blood and dirty, and seal their wounds completely. Then they dress them in the finest clothes and armor they could find. They are princes of Erebor, and they will be buried as such, even if they never got the chance to live as ones. When he opened his eyes again, he found that the sun was beginning to rise. The Nazgul could only travel at night, and would spend the daytime resting in deep caves, for the most part. He sighed as the ring wraiths began to make their way to one. He was getting tired of sleeping in the damp holes with only the corpses for company. Bard's children cry when they see their father's body. The youngest collapses at his side and shakes his arm, begging him to wake up because this joke was not funny. The oldest kneels down next to her sister and pulls her into a gentle hug as she cries into her hair. His son continues to stand, his shoulders shaking as silent tears streak down his face. When he looks up at Bilbo, there is nothing but pain and accusation in his eyes that he got from his father. When Bilbo saw the black gates, he felt strangely calm. He knew his fate the moment he realized where the wraiths were taking him, but he had certainly enough time to accept it. Death was never a state he feared after he turned 100 and actually looked forward to the afterlife a bit. It would certainly be nice to meet his parents again and discover for sure what came after death. Fear of dying was for the young and restless. Bilbo had certainly lived long enough to overcome that particular trait. Frodo smiles up at him with bright blue eyes that remind him of a king long gone. His nephew is nothing like Thorin, nothing at all, and yet he can't help but love him just as fiercely. He makes a silent vow, then, to never allow Frodo to come to harm. He will not fail his nephew as he failed Thorin. It is a promise that he breaks later, when he leaves his cursed ring with the only son he will ever know. When Bilbo opened his eyes again, he found himself on the floor with a hooded figure standing over him. It only took one look into a pair of distorted amber eyes for him to make the connection.
Hello, Bilbo Baggins.
Sauron,
You destroyed everything I ever loved,
greeted in a voice that held echoes of centuries within it.
I have been waiting a long time to meet you.
I wish I could say the same, he replied, because being blunt was another benefit that came with being old. Sauron tilted his head to the side. It was a startling mortal gesture to make, and looked odd on his form. Not that it was hard to do, considering the Dark Lord lacked a solid body and a true face. Instead, he seemed to be made out of shadows, bits of fluid darkness that had been stitched together to create a tall and lean form. As the hobbit stared, he could see how the darkness flickered and shifted throughout the body. The only thing that seemed even the tiniest bit solid about him were his bloody amber eyes.
Charming, just as I imagined you to be,
the Dark Lord replied with what almost sounded like dryness in his tone. If Dark Lords felt emotions, or even possessed a sense of humor, Bilbo could not be sure, but he felt like it was right if beings like Sauron lacked humor and wit. It just didn't seem fair that Dark Lords got both power and a sense of humor. That's it, I've officially lost it. I'm wondering if Sauron likes to tell jokes when I should be worrying about my future death. Clearly the wraiths have destroyed my mind. Did you bring me here? He wondered as he stared up at the tall figure. He could smell something strange, a mix between rot and sulfur and tar, but he couldn't pinpoint if it came from the Dark Lord or the room.
Yes,
his captor replied without clarification. Why? How? How could you drag my soul and yourself back into the past? Sauron chuckled, and it sounded like the wind howling during a storm.
Why should I tell you?
Indulgent, ignorant mortal. How many chances do you really get? He pointed out. He'd never planned to go out heroically, but he could at least go out tonight.
A good point,
the shadow granted.
Very well. You look at this world and see one land, one plane. Yes.
Apparently they were going with a monologue. The rumors of Sauron's cruelty were true indeed. Resigned to his fate, he nodded.
That is because you are mortal. You are a weak creature who lacks the power to see beyond your own simple existence.
The shadow practically sneered.
I do not have such shackles to hold me back. I see this plane, the plane of the Valar, the plane of the dead, and many others that you could not begin to imagine.
Bilbo rolled his eyes. I'm still waiting for the part where you get to the point.
I'm getting there,
his captor reassured, waving a shadowy hand.
When you were leaving for the Undying Lands, you began to die. Your soul began to slip between the cracks of this world and the Undying Lands and into the plane of the dead. It was at that moment that I struck. I absorbed part of your spirit, your being, and dragged us both into the river of time. From there it was easy enough to go back to a time where I still existed.
The hobbit felt his heart drop into the pit of his stomach. You absorbed a part of me? Sauron nodded as his amber eyes became narrowed.
Yes. I took a part of your soul and devoured it. And you know what happened. I grew stronger from your weak energy, yes. But more importantly, I got your memories.
No, he denied, shaking his head slowly. No.
Oh, yes.
The shadow hissed with obvious glee.
Every moment, every second of your life, every fleeting thought, I saw it all. Your silly worries over your books, your pathetic heartbreak for that little wolf, and your never-ending guilt for your precious nephew. I saw it all, and I used it to devise a plan. One that you followed perfectly.
He was going to faint, or throw up, or possibly even scream. Why am I still alive? Why did you even bring me here, to gloat? To laugh in my face? The Dark Lord scoffed.
Don't be stupid. I could care less about your opinion of me. No, I brought you here to keep you alive. You see, absorbing another soul comes with a high price. That was why I never bothered with it all these years. But trapped in the void with my master, I had no other choice. I bound the two of us together, and now we are stuck with each other for the rest of eternity. In simpler terms, you die, I die.
I'm a hobbit. You know we don't live as long as the other races, he reminded with a sneer. The shadow laughed at him, and he shuddered at the sound.
Immortality is not difficult to attain. I only need you alive and well. Your state of mind is irrelevant.
Bilbo bared his teeth in a snarl at that promised threat. I'll kill myself before I let you live.
Which is why I brought you here.
Sauron revealed, his cruel eyes sparking within the bloody gold.
It was risk leaving you on your own for so long. You could have been killed so very easily. But in order to strengthen my armies and avoid detection, it was a risk that I had to take.
And the ring? Why didn't you come after it once I found it?
Because I knew you would bring it to Mordor. Why waste my time hunting you down when I could have you deliver it to me?
The bastard had an answer for everything. I don't have it anymore.
Yes, I noticed that,
The Dark Lord assured.
but finding it will not be so difficult now. Not when I know who has it now.
And me? What are you going to do with me now?
You will stay here with me, where you cannot get yourself killed.
The Shadow replied as he turned around and began to glide towards the iron door.
Make yourself comfortable, Baggins. You will not be leaving the cell for a long time.
Bilbo watched the Dark Lord until he disappeared behind the heavy door. As soon as it slammed shut, he found himself completely engulfed in darkness. He couldn't even see his hand in front of his face. Well, this is certainly not the end I was expecting. He mused out loud just to break the unnerving silence around him. Then, because it only felt right, he laughed. This is not the end I was expecting at all. He was dreaming of his warm, soft, hard bed back in the Shire, Rivendell, the cold ground Erebor, and all the food he could eat, starving, so hungry. All of his friends and family were there. Lies, all lies, because they're dead, all dead. And everyone was happy. He laughed, cried, screamed, smiled with them as they celebrated.
Bilbo! Bilbo, wake up!
He was running from something small, as Sauron himself, and moving as fast as he could. His lungs were beginning to burn, and his legs ached, but he could not stop. If he stopped, then he knew his memories, grief, guilt, anger, fear, worry would get him for good. Damn it, Bugler, wake up! Those blue eyes haunt his every step, Frodo Thorin, until all he can see when he closes his eyes are those eyes. A lifetime of mourning, I'm sorry, so sorry, please forgive me, can never erase those eyes from his memory. Bilbo, please wake up! Far over the misty mountains cold. Please don't die, please! To dungeons deep and caverns old. Bilbo? We must away at break of day. Are you waking up? To claim our long forgotten gold. Bilbo! And he woke up.